Hi, it's Randy Herman with Keller Williams Realty, Associate Broker. And today we have with us somebody who's going to be a godsend in your life, Don Cassidy. Don is a plumber with his own company. And Don, I can't thank you enough for being here.
My pleasure.
Okay. I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and your company.
Sure. The name of the company is Cassidy Plumbing and Heating, and we're based out of Arlington, Mass. It's a small family-run company.
My hometown.
There you go.
Okay.
Small family company. It's just me and one other guy. Throughout the years, I've had as many as 10 guys working for me. But
how long have you been in business?
I've been in business 30 years.
Wow.
And done all sorts of, all aspects of plumbing and heating and gas fitting, from commercial, light commercial, industrial, residential. Primarily now we're focused on residential.
Right.
As I'm married and I'm in the suburbs, so I don't get into the city as much as I used to.
Right, so that's most of your work then, is residential.
It is.
Okay. Let me see here if I can, there we go. I'm curious, what does it take to be a plumber?
So there's an apprentice period consisting of a 4-year program.
4 years it
4
takes?
years.
Oh my God.
And
who do you apprentice to?
So you'll apprentice to you'll work under a master plumber's license, and as an apprentice you could be on a site with a journeyman or with the master himself. There's 300 classroom hours required.
Right.
That will get you your journeyman's license. After 4 years you go up and you'll take an exam, and it's a written exam.
Right.
And upon completion of that, you'll receive your journeyman license, and after a year of working as a journeyman, you're eligible to go up for a master license, which requires, I believe, another 100 hours of school time.
Well, that's quite a lengthy apprenticeship.
It is, yeah.
Is there classroom work or tests that you have to take?
There is classroom work. The practical application is on-the-job training, which is why you have to prove your proof of employment.
Right.
And you'll submit all that.
You submit it to?
You'll submit it to the testing board. You'll submit it to the plumbing board, and they in turn will give you a date for examination.
Okay, and then what happens during the exam?
During the exam, it's been a long time since I've taken it, but it's a 4-hour exam, and
wow.
You'll sit, and there's a written portion and a practical application portion of the exam.
Well, I have to say, it's more extensive than I thought it would.
Yeah, it is.
I guess
the health and welfare of the public.
I was going to say, I guess being a plumber nowadays is complicated.
It like everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I think, my God, did the cavemen have to do what I'm doing here? It gets so complicated. We have such complicated lives, and even plumbing, I know, in terms of fumes, in terms of other issues that come up.
Right, and I think, it seems that over time people have become hypersensitive to their environment, and for whatever reasons, and I think people are more vigilant in houses are built differently, a little tighter than they used to be, so it traps a lot of the potential gases in the house.
Okay, we'll go into that a little bit further, but I wanted to know, do you also have to study all the codes, the town, the building codes, etc.?
Well, the building codes and the plumbing codes are two separate codes. They do conflict sometimes, so it can be. Whenever we're permitting a job, we check in with the building code, and the inspectors will also give us a heads up if something's overlapping or there's a gray area where we're drilling through a timber, let's say, that you could potentially.
And are you insured?
We are fully insured. Yep,
right.
Fully licensed, fully insured, and we generally carry about $10 million in liability insurance.
Wow.
And
so you're covered.
we're covered.
Okay, so as a homeowner, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So let's dig right into it, and
Sure.
let me ask you, what does a plumber do?
So we do everything from water piping and sewer, installations to gas fitting, heating installations. We can, there's, today a plumber has to be able to diversify. Some plumbing companies will kind of focus in or hyper-focus in on one area of plumbing and heating, and I generally do a little bit of a,
Right.
a
So
more of a
there's
broader approach.
there's like the water issues, like water pipes,
Right, water delivery systems.
sewer system,
Right.
that sort of thing.
Right. For residential homes, it's pretty basic. You have an incoming water main and an outgoing sewer.
Do you deal with the main itself?
We do deal with the main. The plumbing, the plumber in Massachusetts is responsible for 10 feet outside of the
Oh,
house.
really? Oh.
And then a sewer, sewer company or a drain layer can then connect it to the city line. You don't have to be licensed after 10 feet. I'm not sure what the requirements are for drain layers, but.
And then, along with the water issues, you deal with appliances too, right?
Well, we hook up the appliance. We don't generally repair appliances, but
Okay.
we do installations, appliance installations, everything from dishwashers, garbage disposals, washer and dryers.
Do you purchase those for the homeowner?
We can, but generally it's because it's such a subjective thing. We usually recommend that the homeowner go out and buy their own. A lot of times we'll get stuff spec'd out too if we're doing new construction, a brand new dwelling, let's say. Sometimes all the appliances are already spec'd out by an
And do you
architect.
take away the old appliances?
We used to, but now with recycling, a lot of the companies that they purchase these appliances from, be it a retail outlet like Home Depot or Lowe's, they, for a small fee, a nominal fee of I think $25, they'll come and retrieve the item when they make the delivery. So sometimes when we're doing like a stove installation, it requires us to go twice. We'll have to go disconnect,
Right.
and then once the appliance is delivered, we'll come and connect the appliance.
So that's the water issues, and then you also deal with the heating, right?
We do. We deal with forced hot water heating, any type of hydronic heating, which is water-based, radiant heat, forced hot water or steam. Forced hot air, some plumbing companies do forced hot air. We don't. It's generally not in our wheelhouse. It's more of an HVAC
Right.
application, just because you're running air conditioning through
HVAC standing for,
heating, ventilation, and air conditioning.
okay, good. All right, so you deal with the heating, the furnace, water-based, hydronics, you said, and then gas. You also put in gas lines, right?
We do. We do natural gas, propane gas, liquid petroleum, LP, both.
Again, do you hook it up to the meter?
We hook
or
it,
is that the
so the gas company in most cities in Massachusetts, the gas company is responsible for bringing the gas into the house.
Right,
We call that the street side.
right.
And then on the house side, which is the right side of the meter that feeds all the appliances, that's the responsibility of the local plumber.
Okay, good. And then we had gone over this a little bit, the different kinds of jobs that you do. You do residential, but do you also do commercial jobs?
We do. We do commercial. We do some industrial stuff. We do work for municipalities. So some of the,
Must be a very different kind of plumbing that you deal with.
sometimes it is. Sometimes it's the same, just on a bigger scale. The pipe is bigger.
Right.
Carrying the water, delivering the water, sizing the stuff is a little bit bigger. The materials can be bigger. The materials can be different. Residential homes now,
Right.
there's been quite a change in the materials that we use in residential applications. Lots of petroleum-based, like plastics and
Right.
and such.
Well, you must run the gamut. We'll go over this again in a few minutes, but you must run the gamut, see everything from old galvanized pipes to new plastic PEX pipes.
Yeah. Sometimes the challenge is transitioning from some of the older stuff to the new stuff.
What do you mean by that?
So when we go into a house, there's a lot of old homes in New England, and we go into a house and, everybody's on a budget. So
Right.
if they're doing a small renovation project, or sometimes we're just doing a repair, and, people's finances don't allow them to spend $25,000 upgrading plumbing. So, we'll go in and we'll have to transition from old cast iron to plastic.
Right. Are there rules about how you can do that?
There are rules. That's where some of the codes apply. And
Because I remember just seeing fairly recently an old house that an investor was thinking about purchasing, and we could see that the cast iron, and then came plastic, and there was plastic above it, and there was someone said it wasn't up to code that way.
right. So sometimes, this is where it can get tricky, because you can transition off of cast iron to plastic, but you have to keep the main, you know, you have to use like material. So if it's cast iron, it has to stay cast iron on the run of a piece of pipe. But on a branch, you can transition off, which is usually a smaller secondary line off the big line. But
So this is why someone should call a plumber
right.
instead of
Yeah,
trying to do it themselves.
It can be tricky. It can be tricky.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. So if I wanted to put a fountain outside my house,
Mm-hmm.
would I call you?
Yeah, you could call us to do something. Some plumbers will get into stuff like that. You know, irrigation systems, you don't need a licensed plumber to install an irrigation system.
Right.
But all irrigation systems require what's called a backflow prevention device. And that you need a plumber for. So, you know, some of the trades that are out there, we're hooking some of that stuff up. And you really need a licensed plumber.
Right. Okay, great. And then you do, I imagine, repairs, but you must also work for some, let's say, house flippers, investors doing renovations.
Right.
And then do you also do new construction?
We do. We don't do as much new construction as we used to.
Why is
mostly
that?
because the inventory for new, I mean, there are a lot of tear downs. It's very competitive. We tend to do a lot more service work now,
Okay.
Which is the repair work, the renovation type stuff.
Right.
The new construction, some of these builders some of them are even from out of state, and they come with their own crews.
Right.
And they have their own general contractors. So a lot of that stuff is kept in-house.
Got it. Okay. So what are the issues that you come up against? What are the jobs that you really deal with mostly? I mean, I know when I call a plumber, it's because the bottom of the hot water tank suddenly went
Right.
and it's flooding everything,
Right.
or I need a new furnace, or there's a leak in one of the faucets.
So we do all of those things, and you know, and 500 more. So everything imaginable in your house that's a mechanical system,
Right.
generally will be in a state of disrepair and need to have a professional come in and repair it.
Right. So how small a job will you do?
So we'll do just about anything from changing. We won't change washers and faucets anymore. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's a disposable world we live in.
Right.
And
Oh, so you just put in a new faucet?
we generally put in new faucets. Some of the higher end stuff, believe it or not, you can go online and the manufacturer will actually send you for free the parts. They won't pay for the labor to install them, but they will pay for the parts. And it's comparable in cost to have us come out.
Yeah.
To sometimes it can be more to repair than it is to replace, believe it or not.
Yeah, no, it's,
And
you're right. It's a disposable world.
it is. It
Right,
is.
I understand. Okay, so I imagine with each kind of job, you have to have a different kind of specialty. You know, for example, with furnaces, you must have to know about the fittings, the kind of fittings, the pressures that it'll take, and
Right.
that sort of
So the
thing.
heating systems, you know, again, because we have a world economy, there's so much product on the market that with the newer stuff that comes out, some guys will focus on one particular product and rep maybe one or two products because there's so many gauges and switches and electronics involved that
Right.
to stay on, let alone ahead of the curve.
I was going to ask you, do
requires-
you have to know the workings of each
We do.
kind of
We do
furnace?
to service them because you want to. Like when we do our installs, when we install a new boiler, we get. We'll give you 2 years of service for free with the install.
Oh,
so
great.
yeah, and it's good because you're trying to build you're trying to build a rapport with the customer.
Right.
And the other thing is it makes it easier for us if we're doing the install to go and do the repair.
Right.
We know the
But it means you
install
have
is
to
done
know all
properly.
these different
You do.
kinds of furnaces.
You do. You do.
Wow.
So there can be a lot. And then there is some stuff that, some of the newer things that some of the older guys, like I'm getting up there in age, will just say, I'm going to refer you to a company that specifically deals with this brand of heating equipment,
Right.
and they're really good at it. And they
Well-
don't go too far out of their, they stay
Their
within their
wheelhouse.
lanes as well. Yeah, because there's, time is money, and you could spend, an incredible amount of time just trying to figure one thing out on one heating system.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely. I can imagine. And I can imagine it can get dangerous. I mean, are there dangers involved in what you do?
There are dangers involved. Almost all heating systems are relatively safe. There are built-in redundancies for safety.
Right.
But there are also the unknown variables that you have the gas company like what happened in the valley, put too much
Too much pressure on it.
which wasn't a lot of pressure. It was only a few pounds.
Really?
So so it really is, you really do need to hire a professional. I know with the advent of the internet and with YouTube videos,
Well, every
everybody
week,
wants to give it a shot. And,
yeah. I was going to say every week you read about somebody who died of carbon monoxide
Yeah.
poissoning because the
Right.
flu wasn't
Right, and that's a
hooked up
shame because,
correctly.
as you know, being a realtor, that all homes now require carbon monoxide and fire and smoke.
The
So-
alerts and the alarms,
Right.
but still there's things that obviously are in your wheelhouse
Right.
to make sure that they're correct.
Right, right. And most of the heating equipment today has sensors on it that will shut the system down.
Oh, okay.
So it's the older systems, or a lot of those carbon monoxide situations come from generators. People lose power, they run a generator in the house, and they don't think,
So, yeah, sorry.
That can be a little more noticeable. The scary thing about gas, propane or natural gas, is it's odorless. You don't smell the carbon monoxide.
Right.
And it gets cold in New England. People turn the heat on and...
Yep, it's a little scary.
Right.
Right, that's why, actually, you're right. We have to make sure, and we're responsible for making sure that the fire department comes in and checks all the smoke and
And then you can
Fuel.
have something crazy like an animal can come and build a nest in a chimney over the summer, and you don't even know. And you turn your heating equipment on, and if you haven't updated, if you don't have hardwired
Yeah.
carbon and smoke detectors, and they're battery operated, and the batteries, you just don't know.
yeah, wow, incredible. Okay, let me ask you, what is the one job that you get called on most?
Water heaters, I think.
Really?
Leaking water heaters,
Oh,
yeah.
interesting. I would thought it'd be like toilets, clogged toilets, or
No, it's
sewer
generally
lines or
people,
something.
people don't want to pay me to come out. So they'll, usually they have tried vigorously to clear it themselves before I get there.
Right.
And then they're willing to pay anything by the time we get there. They're so frustrated. But no, I think water heaters is one of the more common residential calls that we get. Garbage disposals is another one.
Really?
People's garbage disposals get clogged or they don't work.
So let me ask you, what is the range of territory that you go to?
So today, I probably stay within the 128 belt now, and I don't, which is pretty far out. But we probably travel 10 miles outside of Arlington. That's
Oh,
about it.
okay, good. Well, 10 miles will take you to
Yeah,
a lot of towns.
it's a lot. Yeah, the population's concentrated right in those 10 miles.
Absolutely. And I'm kind of curious, how do you get your jobs? Is it word of mouth, or?
So I advertised for years in the old Yellow Pages. Remember, maybe
Sure.
some of these people
Yep.
don't remember the 300-pound phone book that used to get delivered. So
I just got one from Arlington. It was
Yeah.
about
Yeah,
that thick.
Yeah, yeah, very small. And that went out to 1.2 million people. And when I was younger, that's where I really built my customer base. And I've kind of farmed from there, word of mouth, and
Right.
good plumbers are in high demand. So you don't have
They
to
are.
advertise, but we have a little the internet. You can Google the internet and.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I deal a lot with investors. So I go to investors groups, real estate investor groups, and every investor to a single person says, my God, the most important guys I deal with are not the sheetrockers, are not the construction guys. They're the plumber and the electrician.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys you're right. You're in high demand.
Yeah.
Yep. So what are some of the differences in the newer materials that you're dealing with today that you didn't have to before?
So in residential applications, they've changed greatly. Commercial, not so much, and I think the reason commercial is because they want to keep it, they want the metals, it's more labor intensive, it's union driven, so they want the more labor intensive materials, where the residential side has come, really, there's just a lot out there. There are plastics like
I
PEX
see-
tubing.
Yeah, I see that.
Yep.
This
For water
colorful
piping,
tubing
yep.
all the time. So what's the advantage of a PEX tubing?
Well, the bigger advantage is it's very fast to install. So from a plumber's point of view, you can really run it. You're not soldering fittings like we used to clean and soldering, and
Yeah.
so there's no torch. So there's the safety aspect of not having an open flame constantly going in a building or dwelling.
A plumber had told me that one of the advantages is that it will expand without breaking.
Right. It will. So freeze-ups are a problem in New England, as everybody knows, I'm sure.
Big problem.
Yeah. So one of the nice things is that the plastic does have a little more deflection. It will expand more with the ice. I mean,
Right.
obviously anything, if you freeze it long enough, you can have problems at the fittings,
Right.
not necessarily the pipe.
Is that a problem you run into a lot?
But with copper it is, because copper, it's not as forgiving. So it'll only move so much before it splits. And unfortunately, as anybody that's had a frozen pipe in New England knows that has split, the only way to find it is to thaw it out and let it drip.
Yeah. Well, part of that too is that investors, when they're buying a house, or they sight unseen, or they're not able to have an inspector or have running water going through the house, you never know if there's breaks in the pipes.
Right. Especially if it's if it has lied dormant for any period of time.
So tell me, do you have a secret tool that you can use to tell where a break in the pipe is, or do you just have to turn on the water?
Literally, just turn on the water.
Yeah.
We literally. I
You
just
could
had one
make a
yesterday.
fortune if you invented something.
I
like
just had a frozen pipe yesterday.
Oh, really?
Ironically enough, my neighbor across the street had left the basement window open.
Yeah.
He was doing some painting down there, and the fumes were a little too much, and it got cold the night before and froze the pipe.
that. Right. Did you have to replace the pipe?
We did replace the pipe, and this is before the repair would cause us to drain the water out of the system, and to solder with water in the system can be a challenge. And this goes back to some of the new fittings out there. They make these fittings that are solderless. You just cut the pipe and make sure the pipe isn't out of round, and you can just literally put just clip them right back
Great.
together.
I have to tell you a story because I saw a house that the people had just bought. They went away on vacation. They had some sort of system for their heating, but that had a problem. The pipes froze, and then it thawed. So the water was spewing everywhere. No one knew about it because they were away on vacation, and then it froze again. And by the time they got back and people were able to get in touch with them, the house looked like a Disney version, like an ice castle.
Yeah.
It was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
They had such damage.
Yeah, I had a customer in Marblehead who went away to Florida and had the young boy across the street feed the fish, and he didn't pull the door closed all the way, and not only was there some frozen pipes, but the fish tank was frozen solid as well.
Oh my God. Oh, geez.
Yeah, so I could tell you some stories.
Yeah, well,
Another session.
okay. So there must be also new appliances that you're constantly dealing. We were saying that you have to know about these appliances, but like I know there's a lot of tankless hot water heaters and that sort of
And those are the ones that, to go back to what I was saying earlier, in regards to some companies just willing to put in certain, like Nevian. Some companies just want to deal with Nevian. Some want to deal with Burnham. Some guys will do it all. But I generally find that in terms of quality of work and quality control, for us, it's better to stick to 2 or 3 different types.
Right.
And, that's it.
And now I'm curious because we're just starting to see a little more of this happening, the green technology. People put on solar panels with all the piping. Now, does that fall to you at all? Or?
Well, the hot water tanks still fall to us and some of the safety stuff, but the some of that green stuff, the company that does the installs for the panel
Right.
will hire a plumbing company that is familiar. Again, they have a system. Those are generally, for those guys to make money, they have to get in, do the job, and get out. So they have a system down where they bring in their own in-house guys.
Right.
So we don't run across too much of it, other than we're starting to see more and more of it because, like everything, when you factor in planned obsolescence to some of this product, they don't want product to last forever. So
Yeah.
you've got to update and repair and replace.
I've seen some incredible systems like geothermal,
Yeah,
where they go
geothermal.
down 30 feet into the...
Yeah, it's incredible. They just did a school in Cambridge, all geothermal.
Yeah.
Greenest school in the country, I believe.
Wow,
Yeah.
interesting. So, talking about expensive and costs, I'm just wondering, how do you charge? Do you charge by the hour? Do you charge by the job?
So there's a couple of different ways that plumbing companies charge. The traditional way is by the hour, which we don't. We do another way to bill the customer is a flat rate price, where we come out and we'll assess the problem for free.
Right.
Especially in a residential situation, there's not too much that we haven't seen at this point. So we can go out and we give a price. We don't go over the price. We don't go under the price, but
Right.
we don't go over the price. And then the customer can agree or disagree to take us on. And I find the advantage of that is twofold. One, the customer is able to, if it's a day or a half a day project, they're not held in the house. They can go out and kind of do what it is they have to do without worrying about whether or not these guys are taking too long or.
Right. They don't have to stand there with a stopwatch.
Right, and the second benefit is to us, because if we've been doing this a long time, we can get in and get out, do a quality job, have accountability.
Right.
And I think it works best for both. And, the other thing too is that most customers today are a lot more savvy, I think, than they were, say, 20, 25 years ago.
Well, the internet will give us
Right,
information.
and so
on
everybody
everything.
has a lot of information,
Right.
and it only benefits me as a company. The more discerning they are and the more educated they are, the easier it is for me to sell the job.
Right. So I know it's very hard to say. It's almost a ridiculous
Mm-hmm.
question, but what does it cost, let's say, for the appliances or the plumbing work for putting in a new kitchen? I mean,
Right.
obviously, it could be a huge kitchen
Yeah,
or a
so the
small
range
one,
of
but-
that. So that's usually contingent upon how old the house is, and it's a lot easier to go in and give a price once everything's taken out, which we call it a gut. Once it's gutted, we can go in and do an assessment like that. But it's
And
different.
for jobs like that, you need a permit,
Yes, you need a building permit, a plumbing permit, electrical permit.
right? And then you have to bring in the inspectors.
So you bring the inspector in for the rough side of the inspection. Before any of the walls are closed in, he'll come in and make an assessment
Okay.
and determine that, okay, everything's up to code.
And that's all on you to
That's
do?
all on us to do.
You pull the permits?
We
you
pull
do
the
everything?
permit, and before we call the inspector in, we do our own assessment and make sure that everything's up to code. And then he comes in and verifies it. And that protects the customer
Yeah.
and, quite frankly, protects the plumber as well.
Yeah.
So everybody's covered.
Okay, good. So, again, it must be very hard to give, but what is a bathroom plumber's?
So like in some instances, we'll do the whole project. We'll do a whole small bathroom remodel, and they can range from $20,000 to $25,000 from, a 5x8 standard 5x8 bathroom.
Right.
Tiled.
Yeah,
From just the plumbing alone, like if it was a standard 5-foot tub, generally around $5,000-$6,000 for the plumbing.
okay. That
Plumbing
includes the tub.
That includes a
and-
shower valve, a tub,
Right,
a sink, usually a 2-foot, and a 5x8, and a toilet.
and toilet. Okay, great. So I'm just curious, we're kind of running out of time here a bit.
Okay.
But I'm just wondering, what are kind of the biggest challenges for you as a plumber? Is it the business side? Is it dealing with the clients? Is it the keeping up with all the latest and greatest in plumbing?
I think, I don't think much has changed. I think people are people, and I think communicating, I think, is probably, and I've tried to really hone that skill
Right.
over the years, because I'm not a mind reader, the customer's not a mind reader. And I think expectations and happiness are closely linked.
Right.
So I try to give reasonable expectations of jobs and what to expect, and then hit those marks. And I think that's the biggest challenge. The work is the work, and
Interesting.
some people have had bad experiences with contractors.
Oh,
so
a lot of
sometimes it's
people.
about instilling it's trying to instill a trust that, when you go in and drop a $20,000 price on somebody and, they're writing you a check for a deposit.
Right.
That's
And
where
that's usually-
references come in and
Right.
stuff
That's
like
usually
that.
the way you work. You get some
Some of the
money up
bigger
front.
jobs, some of the smaller jobs we just bill, and but we are COD. We get paid when the job is finished. Kind of like the mechanic. You don't get your car until you write the check.
Got
But usually everybody's satisfied, and I think it's more palatable from a consumer's perspective if I go in and just say, look, here's a water heater install. It's going to be $1,400 from start to finish,
Right.
and then we get everything, and
Right.
they just write me
So
a check.
we're quickly running out of time.
Okay.
I'm so sorry, but how can people get in touch with you if they have a plumbing issue?
So sure. So it's Cassidy Plumbing and Heating, and we are located at 272 Florence Ave in Arlington, Mass. Our phone number is 781-396-4005. And you can Google us, Cassidy Plumbing and Heating in Arlington.
Well, thank you so much. You obviously know your stuff
Yeah,
here.
my pleasure. I appreciate the opportunity to sit down and chat with you. This is my first time, and
Right. Well, maybe we'll bring you back for more in depth here.
I would
with
love
the-
it.
Yeah,
I would love it.
Jump in the tub together.
there you go, Randy.
Okay.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
Yeah, have a great day.
You too.